Sorry about y'all. All right. So, yes, my name is Annie Sandifer. I'm the regional director here at the Small Business Development Center. And just a little bit of a caveat, Callista, I used to sell my product under Cottage Law, but for the past 4 years, I've been selling it under a food manufacturer's license, and I do make my product in a commercial kitchen. So, as I was kind of preparing for these slides today, there's definitely been some changes since I used to produce under Cottage Law. But if I don't have the answer to something, we will definitely find out the answer for you as we move along. All right. So, first off, Texas Cottage Food Law requirements. So, basic eligibility, you must be making your product in a primary residence using home kitchen and residential appliances for you to be under the umbrella of the cottage food law. So if you are making products within a commercial kitchen, then you would have to go have different requirements. Also, too, if you're making your products in, say, a restaurant, and borrowing their kitchen for a period of time, that does not fit the Texas cottage food law. It does have to be made in your primary residence. Okay. You will need to complete, anybody who wants to sell products through cottage food law does have to get a food handler's card and go through the training. It's fairly inexpensive. There is a list of different vendors, or basically third party businesses that you would get that food handler's card. And if you go to the website at dshs.texas.gov/licensing food handler training programs, that'll give you a list of the approved companies that you can take their food handler's card, and it will be recognized by the state of Texas. Okay. Also, anybody who is helping you in making your products in your kitchen also needs to have a food handler's card, especially if they are not being monitored by you while doing it. Okay. All right. So this is kind of interesting. So it used to be listed the items that you could sell under cottage food law, but with this change that came into effect last September, they've now switched it. So basically, they list the exceptions. So anything outside of those exceptions, you can now sell under the cottage food law. So basically the exceptions are all meats. This includes poultry, carcasses, or animal byproducts, seafood, shellfish, and casseroles, enchiladas, those type of things that can contain meat. So, for example, you actually could make a casserole. Say you want to make a broccoli, cheese, and rice casserole. That will fit under the cottage food law, but you can't add meat to it. Okay. So once you add meat to it, it's not an approved item under cottage food law. Okay. Other exceptions are anything that is ice or ice products. So ice cream, popsicles, that sort of thing. Also, items that are low acid canned goods. So one thing I thought of is like when you have canned herring, for example, that would not be eligible. Okay. Any canned meats, sometimes certain vegetables, if they're not in a vinegar, that sort of thing. The pH level that's required, it has to be above 4.6 pH level. If you are not sure if your item meets that, you can purchase a pH thermometer, basically, and test your items. It's fairly inexpensive to get that item. When I was selling under cottage food law, every batch I made, I just ensured that I tested it and made sure that it met the requirements and that I actually wrote that down and had a log just in case there was ever an issue. Okay. Then Any CBD or THC products also are not eligible under cottage food law. Then raw milk and raw milk products are not eligible. They're not pasteurized, so the safety is a concern. So then we come to, and this is a whole new ball game for the cottage food law. So time and temperature controlled foods. They used to not be able to do anything that was kind of potentially was a risk under cottage food law. That has changed now. So, if you do have a product that you're selling, so for example, let's take that broccoli cheese casserole. That is considered a time and temperature controlled food. So, if it were to be sat on the counter, it could potentially become a risk. So, those items can be sold, but there are certain requirements. So, you do have to register your business under the with the DSHS platform or the state of Texas, DHS state of Texas. And there's the website that you could go into to see and or go directly to register your food items with them. Okay. There also has to be a system in place where the high risk products are stored and delivered within safe temperatures. And those safe temperatures are anything below 41 degrees is safe. So definitely refrigerated or frozen. And then items, and then above that at 140. So it has to be delivered. If you bake in, they'll take the casserole again. Say you tell a customer that you will deliver their casserole for dinner, you will already heat it and that sort of thing. When it's delivered to that customer, it has to be above 140 degrees. Okay. Um, Also, yeah, I just mentioned stored and delivered safe temps. Only direct to consumer sales for these type of items. So, for example, I can't sell that casserole to, let's say, Frontier Market or Rancher Storefront, that sort of thing, for them to resell it. Um, you cannot resell the time and temperature controlled foods to a wholesaler. It has to be direct to consumer. Okay. Also must be labeled with the production date on it. And this is for those time and temperature controlled foods. So, when we all go to the grocery store, a lot of times we'll see that Best By date. They're not requiring a Best By date, but they are requiring the date that it was produced so that the customer can then determine kind of that safe time frame. Okay. They must include also safe handling statement, which I'll show you here in a minute. Okay, so we're going to continue on with time and temperature controlled foods. These must be labeled with a production date we just talked about, and only required for the TCS items. Okay. The safe handling statement, this is what it has to say, and you cannot deviate from the wording of this. So this product was produced in a private residence that is not subject to governmental licensing or inspection. That is required, and it's required to be written that way. Okay. Another change, which makes this a wonderful opportunity for anybody who wants to, do a side hustle or just don't, want to make this a full-time job. You can cottage food law. It used to be 50, but now making it $150,000, it kind of makes it's a game changer for a lot of people and allows them the ability to do what they want to do and not have to go through the expense of a commercial kitchen and all of those things. So, wholesale via cottage food vendors. So this is also a change. Sorry, I'm gonna take a drink. Um, you used to not be able to sell wholesale items under the cottage food law. So now you can. So anybody who sells jams, jellies, mustards or anything that is in a canned item can be, or non-perishable food item, bakered items are another one, can be sold to a wholesale to a store. Okay. And again, these are the non-perishable, the items that are at risk are not eligible to be sold to vendors. So some different options. You have a farm stand you could sell to vendors, food service establishments, say a restaurant and or food trucks. You can sell your products to at farmers markets, also to sell them at retail stores. I want to mention something because I think, for example, as being working with the Canyon Farmers Market, we do not, the Canyon Farmers Market does not allow second party sales. So everything that somebody sells in their booth has to be produced by them. So even though the cottage food law allows them to, different organizations can set their own rules of if they want to allow that or not. Okay, so just be aware of that. Vendors must register with, you also have to register with the DSHS. So if you have a high perishable item, you have to register with the DSHS. Or if you are going to be a vendor and sell wholesale, you also have to be registered with the DSHS. Okay. The vendor must post disclosure sign near products. So this is if you're wholesale and your products are being sold somewhere else, you need to have signage stating and letting the customer know that the product was produced in a private residence that is not subject to governmental licensing or inspection. Okay. Labels also must include the production date, and we kind of already talked about that. So some of the labeling updates, producers may use a unique ID number instead of a home address. And this is wonderful. We actually had a customer just the other day call us asking if they needed to have a home address. And I was unaware that that had changed. But now if they register, they can get a unique ID number and put that on their label instead of having their home address on it. Okay. Handling for TCS foods only. Safe handling instructions. This statement also has to be on your label. That safe handling instructions to prevent illness from bacteria, keep this food refrigerated or frozen until the food is prepared for consumption. Okay. Then also disclosure, and this is for all foods that are made under the cottage food law. This product was produced in a private residence that is not subject to governmental license or inspection. And then you also have to have the production date required for all TCS foods. And TCS is time, temp, controlled safety foods. Okay. And then foods sold through vendors. So this is an example of what a label would look like. So you've got the name of your business, you've got the product name, you have the date that it was produced on. Then you also have to, and this is required on all products too, is the allergen listed and then circle the allergens. These are the top allergens. So circle the allergens that will impact you or, that are in your product that could be of concern to somebody else. This is not all of them by any means, but these are the most popular. Like when I started selling my product, I had no idea that people could be allergic to mustard, but it actually is a thing. So usually the customer will ask me, or they know that if they are allergic to mustard and won't buy my product. Handling instructions. So again, this has to be on the label and stated this way for the consumer. And this is for the TCS foods. Okay. Then this product was produced in a private residence that is not subject to governmental license or inspection. Also has to be on all labels of all cottage food law products. Okay. Then this is where you at the bottom would put the home address or the TSHS cottage food license number. Okay. All right. So donations. Under the cottage food law, there can be donations can be given. So cottage producers may donate non basically the items that are not high risk, so not the time and temperature controlled safety foods for sale, but the other ones, so any of the canned goods, that sort of thing. Or they can do foods for sale or to serve at events. This includes any house of worship, nonprofit organizations, or schools. Then sampling. Sampling, you do not need to have a permit to sample your product. If anybody tells you you do, that is actually not the case under in the state of Texas. You must follow sanitary rules, which you'll learn in taking the food handler's card. So making sure you're using clean gloves or hands, that you have potable water, that you have 41-degree Fahrenheit your product is being sold below 41-degree Fahrenheit for TCS foods, etc. And then you can only sample foods you're legally allowed to sell. And then inspectors may check your setup. If you haven't done business under cottage law yet, be aware, always have your food handler's card with you. Any sort of permitting, make sure if you've registered with the state and you have your number that you have those available. The health inspectors will come through typically once or twice a year and just do a quick check in with you. They want to know that you're prepared and that you have the documentation and you've done what you need to do to provide safe food for the public. Local government and permits. So local authorities cannot regulate, license, or charge fees. And they stated this in this new update that went into effect in September because I guess there were counties that were charging, permitting, and so forth. And so this is they got away with this, and they actually can be let go if they are trying to charge people for licenses and permits under the cottage food law. Okay. And then why these things matter. Some of these changes that have happened has been a huge win for Texas small food businesses. Again, I said it can be a game changer when you can now make up to $150,000 a year under the law. Also, it allows people to produce additional food items, cheesecakes, pies, any type of pizza or something like that without meat, casseroles. All of those items are now legal. And then it also expanded sales and wholesale opportunities is also a big win. So startup checklist. I'm going to go through this checklist just to kind of things to think about. We've talked about a lot of it, but make sure that you have your ducks in a row. First, pick a loud product, kind of determine what it is that you want to make. You probably already have those things in mind. A lot of times it starts with somebody telling you, wow, you should sell this. This is a great item. The beauty of the cottage food law is you can really kind of dip your toe into the field to see if this is a viable product, if people actually want it and will purchase it, before you go to the trouble of, getting a commercial kitchen and doing the food manufacturer's license and all of those things. This is an opportunity where you can get direct feedback from your customer on if they like the product, and different things, your price point, check that out, play with that. This is a great way to start off. First off, you want to learn the rules. We're touching on most of it, but you do need to, I would recommend that you review all the rules and you have a clear understanding of what is all included within the Texas cottage food law. Okay. Then complete your food safety training because you will potentially be asked by the health department at different locations, that sort of thing. Um, Set up your kitchen. And by setting up your kitchen, it means make sure that you're doing your due diligence to minimize the risk to your potential clients. So, for example, when I was making it my home, I have dogs. So the dogs would go out. I would thoroughly clean all surfaces of my kitchen, sweep my floor, everything. I wanted to make sure that my space was sanitary and safe for my customers as I made my products. Create compliant labels. So we went through what those label requirements are. Um, and then decide how you will sell your product. Which venues do you want to go? Do you want to go the farmers market route? Do you want to do food stands? Do you want to go directly to um, do wholesale and sell your products to other businesses that will then sell your products? So think about how you want to go about selling your products. Make sure it fits into your lifestyle. Okay. Then set pricing and taxes. So n- with regards, I'm talking about taxes first. So if you're producing an item that is under kind of it's packaged for to be consumed on site, those items have to be taxed. So when you think about a food truck, they tax your food because it's designated to be consumed on site. If it is packaged and designated to be consumed at home, a lot of the food products you do not have to charge sales tax. So double check that. Don't, double check and make sure that what your product you're doing, find out if it does need to be taxed or not. Okay. And then set your prices. Make sure you take the time to figure out what your cost per unit is. And if you need help with any of that, we here at the SBDC can absolutely help you figure that your cost of goods on the item and help you to determine a good price. The beauty also of selling under cottage food law is you can play with the price a lot. When I first started selling my product, I didn't think that people would buy it for $6. I thought that was asking a lot. But as I started selling it and I got continual feedback that people really liked it, I even have a chef told me that I really needed to increase my price. I slowly increased it. And now I sell it for $10. And it didn't have a negative impact on my customers. They didn't bat an eye and continue to purchase it at that price point. So the beauty is you can kind of play around with the pricing when you're doing like a farmer's market and that sort of thing. Okay. Choose your business name. You've probably already done that. I think that's usually number one on the list. A lot of people will do, but choose your business name. When you're choosing your business name, make sure that name is first off available within the counties that you want to do business. You can find that out by going to the counties, and they have the ability to do a search, uh, and they can tell you if that name is already taken. From the state level too, if you wanted to, so for example, if you want your social media platforms too, make sure that that name is available on social media platforms. Okay. If it's not, then you might want to look around, tweaking the name a little bit so you can have it, you can use a name that you're happy with. Okay. All right. Set up payment and record. Oh, one thing before choosing a business name, we here at the SBDC can also help you to set up your assumed name certificate and to register that name with the county. That document needs to be notarized, and we can notarize it for you here at our office. It's $6 to have it notarized, and we'll make copies. If you want to do business in multiple counties, we will make copies of that form. But then you have to go to the county and register the business. Okay. The other thing is once you have a business name and you have your DBA form and you have an EIN number, which we haven't even talked about, then you can get a bank account. Okay. Um, and I think it's really important as we talk about the next step, setting up payments and records. Um, it's always good to have, we always talk about this at the SBDC. You do not want to mix your personal money with your business money. Okay. You never know what might happen in the future, but it makes it really messy if you're mixing the two. So it's just a good practice to keep those separate. Then you also want to determine under how you're going to, what are you going to take? Are you going to take cash, Venmo, Cash App? If you're going to use a Square Reader, I really highly recommend that you accept credit card and debit cards in some form. Um, I would say more than half people of the people at the market will pay with a card. Um, and then build that fee that you have to pay into the cost that you're selling at. Um, if you're going to add that fee onto the cost, it just kind of leaves a negative in there in your customer's mind that you're adding that additional fee. So just build that into the cost of your product. Okay. Then start selling carefully. And what we mean by that is don't start with 20 different items. Start with a few, get a feel, get your systems in place, feel comfortable, and then you can kind of determine and add on to, what you want and what you can build from there. But start off small and build up as you can. Okay, don't bite off more than you can chew. Okay. All right, and that's all I have. So what questions are out there? Calista?
Sorry.
There you go. It's all good.
If anybody has any questions, please just drop them in the chat. Will you provide the slide deck? Yes, I will be sending a follow-up email with a recording of this presentation and the slide deck as well. Lydia asked, are there other goods that fall under cottage laws, not food?
Um, no. So if you have other like body products, that goes under the FDA, and you need to look into that and the kind of those requirements there. Same thing with like dog food doesn't fall under cottage food law. So I know that we've had people in the past that wanted to make dog biscuits. They wouldn't go, that does not fall under the cottage food law. They'd have to check on the requirements. Um, I think that is FDA also.
Right. And Annabelle asked, do you still sell the horseradish mustard?
Yes, I do.
Any other questions? All right, it does not look like it. I'm actually going to launch a poll here. If everybody could just take 60 seconds to complete this. Send it there now. And while you do that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a rundown of all of our events that we have coming up. Next week we have Blueprint. So if you are just starting your business, on Monday we have Blueprint that helps you kind of work through your value proposition for your business. And then Tuesday we have QuickBooks. So if you're trying to get a hold of those finances, this would be a great training to stop in at. And then at the end of the month, we have um, TMAC, spreadsheet to strategy. So it's really going to be looking at those spreadsheets, figuring out what those numbers mean and how you can apply those for a better result. And then we have next month for our lunch club is something that I think a lot of you will enjoy. It is going to be about intentional and directional marketing, really kind of understanding where you are and what you have the offer and the ability to do as a small business owner when it comes to marketing. Um, that is all. I'm going to leave that poll up there for just another minute or so. Um, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out and we will get back to you. Thank you, Annie, for taking the time to
Thank
do this
you.
presentation today. And like I said, I will be sending out an email with all of this information. All right.
Thank you, Calista.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.